Hello beautiful souls, welcome back to our channel. In our video today, Dr. Gabor Maté will lead us on an engaging journey into the depths of love and personal discovery. In this eye-opening video, Dr. Maté gives essential insights into the transformative power of compassion and self-love.
But when you're supposed to offer unconditional love and you're not getting what you need from your significant other, how do you have people play that out? Is there a point at which they say, look, I can't offer you unconditional love, I need to separate from this? Or
well, you can say, I love you, I really want the best for you, but I can't be with this. I can't be with it. It's toxic for me. It's bad for our children. At some point, that's a reasonable thing to say.
So in that way, are you saying that we should have unconditional love for everybody, even though that means we'll maintain boundaries, we'll have different kinds of relationships?
Well, it depends what we mean by unconditional love. And again, it depends on the age of the person and the needs of that person. So having love for a person doesn't mean that you're going to put up with everything that they do. But how you, like even with children, as we said earlier, we have to draw our boundaries. But the question is, how do we draw our boundaries? And in what spirit and with what intention?
That's interesting. That's so complicated and makes me despair because it's so hard, but I think you're right. The spirit in which you make the intention. So for instance, my wife and I would never have said that I love her unconditionally just because that doesn't feel true, in that I have specifically given her conditions and said, if you were unfaithful to me, that would be the end of the marriage.
Yes. That would be the end of my marriage too.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, but the spirit in which I make that is not meant to be a threat or anything like that.
No.
It's just clarity.
What you're actually saying is, honey, my relationship with you is so important that I can't bear to share that with somebody else on that intimate basis, because my capacity to be intimate with you would really suffer if I had to wonder whether you're choosing somebody else instead of me. That's a perfectly normal, healthy statement to make to an adult partner. It's an expression of love, actually.
Help me understand that. How's that an expression of love?
Because you really want her.
You're helping them be successful.
You really want that. You really want that person in your life. You're saying, I really want you in my life, fully. And there's no room for that in that. You can have all kinds of friends, and I hope you're independent and you have a life that's not all bound up with my own, and I want you to have your own activities and find your own meaning and have your own friends and have your own activities. But in terms of intimate relationships, I can't handle sharing that with somebody else. That's an expression of love.
The four qualities that I can see that are needed for this kind of work, to get behind the conditioned mind that drives addiction, is compassion for the self, number one. And compassion is so lacking in this society, and particularly compassion for the self is so lacking in this society. The epidemic of cosmetic surgery, it's a massive epidemic of lack of self-compassion. People just cannot accept themselves the way they are. And of course society says, and you shouldn't accept yourself the way you are, because you're not good enough. But people say to me sometimes in workshops, I've never loved myself. I can't love myself for a second. And that's because they don't see love when they see it. Because they think that love, self-love, is some kind of emotion. They think that for self-love, I mean, how many of you think that you don't love yourself? Have you had that experience of not loving yourself? Yeah? You know, well, the fact is, if you didn't love yourself, what the heck are you doing here? The very fact that you're here means that you love yourself. Because something about this topic said to you that there's a possibility of transformation. There's a possibility of being human, and by being human, all I mean is being comfortable in your own skin as you are. There's a possibility of that, and I'm worth it enough that I'll take myself to this event and see if I can learn something that'll help me get there. That already is self-love. So in other words, self-love doesn't have to show up in terms of gooey emotions or some kind of a warm-hearted regard for the self. But you know, when I look at it, knock on wood, and I'll acknowledge myself, I've done a lot of things that have supported my learning. That's self-love. And that's all I mean, is some compassion. That there's something else is possible, and that you're worth that possibility. That's all I mean. That's a necessary quality for dealing with addictions. There needs to be some courage, a willingness to look at how it actually is. Not how you'd like it to be, but how it actually is. And so that one of the prime qualities of addiction is denial. So that the people that are addicted to profit, they will actually deny that the Alberta oil sands are going to pollute the environment. I mean, the evidence is clear from people who have worked on the project. But not to see that, and it's not just that they're denying it, it's not that just they know it and they deny it. They actually make themselves believe that it's not going to happen. That's the addicted mind. So in order to get over addiction, you have to actually have the courage to look at how things actually are inside here. And finally, you have to disidentify from the experience. These people that I see in the Vancouver downtown east side all had childhoods in which they didn't get enough dopamine and endorphins. Just listen, if you listen to their stories, you get it over and over and over again. But what interests me in this book as well is not just the experience of the hardcore drug addict, but also the rest of us. Because you know what? I'm an addict myself. And I used to have a very serious compact disc addiction. And when I say compact disc addiction, I don't mean just that I'm passionately in love with classical music, but I am. But the compulsion and the impulse, there would be days in which I would leave my work, I'd leave a woman in labor to go and buy a piece of classical music. And I could have made it back on time, but then I started shopping up for other stuff, you know. So it's not the classical music that's addictive, it's my own relationship that's addictive. And you know what? We live in an addictive society. To one degree or another, we're all like that. And my thesis is that the reason I look upon Barb as a junkie, and we all ostracize a drug addict because we recognize the kind of emptiness that many of us try and cover up inside by pursuing stuff that's going to fix us from the outside. And I can do that by being a workaholic doctor. That gives me lots of adrenaline. And as Hans Selye, the great Canadian researcher, said that you can become addicted to your own stress hormones. Adrenaline is very addictive. And so we can get chemical addictions even if you don't do any drugs. And it all comes down to a kind of emptiness, the kind of deficiency that we have. In other words, anything that's ego-fed and anything that comes from a sense of deficiency is addictive. And that's why we live in an addictive culture. And that, I think, why we ostracize the drug addict. And that's what creates so many problems for them in the downtown east side. And I hate to tell you, Moses, but when I came into the room and I saw these things sitting there, I said, oh, great, teddy bears. And I thought, well, gee, teddy bears don't have tails like that, you know. But it reminded me of my drug-addicted patients. When you visit them in their rooms, these women, these hard-bitten women, and who have been beaten in their lives, and just every kind of degradation that they've subjected themselves to or have experienced from others. When you go to their rooms, and they're full of cockroaches, and bed bugs, and junk, and dirt, they all have teddy bears. And one woman I know has a whole collection of them. She's got about 100 of them in her room. They're all looking for love. And yeah, love is the best painkiller, but it's that lack of love and that lack of self-love then that leads all of us to seek from the outside what we can never get from the outside. So thanks again.
Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey through love and self-compassion. Subscribe to Your Inner Child Matters to start getting more inspirational information and interesting discussions. Let us continue creating a world full of compassion and understanding. Take care and see you on our next video.